whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice in thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, Since thou art laid down, no fellow is come up against us. The glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary. And I will make the place of my feet glorious.
Because the Lord is going to restore everything. You're going to have a total different vibration on the earth, a total different smell. You're not going to be walking down the street and smell shit and piss, you know, and no foul odors or nothing like that, because the lungs of the earth are going to be given back to it, which is all these trees and all of these flowers, and it's going to be a whole total different vibration. You know, you're going to see the aura and how things are going to change and how elevated things are going to be. Our senses are going to be heightened, you know. Everything about us is going to be glorified.
For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. The child shall die 100 years old. But the sinner, 100 years old, shall be accursed. And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build, and another inhabit. They shall not plant, and another eat. Whereas the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock. And dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord.
The Lord said that on the Heavenly Father's right hand there are pleasures evermore. And it says that I have not seen, neither ear heard the things which the Lord hath prepared for them that wait for him. You know, there's a whole another world of greatness that awaits us when the kingdom of heaven is established. It's not seen in this society. In this society, we only see carnal things that reason offers in this society. But when the kingdom is established, the Lord is going to open us up to a whole nother world, you know, of pleasure, of knowledge, of wisdom, understanding, you know, just, I mean, can't even be put into words, you know, because our imagination only goes but so far.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful that out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, and listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right, and what I want to get into today is the continuation in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4. All right, where the Apostle Paul, you know, addresses fallouts, you know, strange doctrines. All right, and we're gonna go into a little history, you know, going into why, you know, Paul, you know, addressed, you know, some of the things, you know, that he addressed in the letter. All right, in which, you know, it's the same thing some of the same things we see today, you know. So the issues, you know, with the church, okay, of Yahushua, all right, amongst Israelite foreigners in these Greek city-states, well, are some of the same issues, okay, that we go through today, you know, as, you know, we're liking, all right, into the Hellenized, okay, Israelites that came back, you know, through faith in Yahushua, you know. So these epistles, you know, written to the churches, you know, they are very vital, you know, for us in our walk, all right, today. Now, when you go to the book of First Timothy, all right, the first thing that he addresses, you know, is apostasy. Okay, let's get this word real quick. Um, Now you hear this word, you know, often. All right, but when you let me see. I'm just going to it, then we're going to the chapter. All right, it says a apostasy is a formal, all right, renunciation of a religion or political party, or a cause that a person once professed. Okay, fallouts. Okay, men, you know, that believe there was at camps, and you know, and then what happened? You know, they fall out. A lot of them, you know, make videos of why they left, and you know, that's apostasy. You know, and we see this a lot. You know, men, you know, and women. You know, why I left the Hebrew Israelites. Okay, this or that. All right, well, that's a form of apostasy. Okay, leaving from something that you know you once openly professed and believed, and now you're openly denouncing it. All right, yeah, denouncing it. Okay, it says it can also refer to a general abandonment of a previous loyalty or defection from one's belief. An individual who engages in apostasy is known as a apostate. Okay, and this is what we see, you know, throughout the ministry. All right, these things, you know, they happen. They happen back then. They happen now. You know, yeah, men that come, men and women that come into this thing and they leave. You know, and they address it. You know, their reason for leaving. Okay, and now, you know, their whole purpose is uh to, you know, become an enemy to truth. You know, and it goes bad for all of them. Okay, and it only gets worse. You see, now when you go to First Timothy 4:1 says, now the Spirit speaketh expressly, all right, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devil. Okay, because these people leave, and what do? They go right back to their vomit. Okay, which this society is engulfed with seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, man. Anything outside the truth is a seducing spirit and doctrines of devils. Okay, something pertaining to a narrative created by Esau, you know, to keep people from truth. Okay, it says speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with that hot iron. Okay, pretty much their conscience, you know, is dead. You know, so now they're in the spirit of they don't care what they say or do. You know, that's a dangerous place to be in. All right, and the prime example, Al-Azhar, he's just the example of the moment. Okay, because he went from this chief priest, this, you know, great debater and defender of the word, okay, to now he talking about sliding, you know, in the projects. His conscience is seared. He don't give a damn what he do or what he say, you know. And there's many others. All right, but he's just, you know, the mascot, okay, for this apostate, all right, in hypocrisy, and someone that's conscience is seared with the hot iron. Okay, it says forbidden to marry and commanded to abstain from meats, which the Most High have created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. Okay, now when you go into First Timothy 4:3, you have to understand, all right, this certain religion, okay, that was going on, all right, during especially, you know, in Ephesus. Okay, because Ephesus was like an epic center. You know, it was heavy. You know, it had a heavy Greco-Roman culture. Now, let's go here to the chat. Okay. First, let's deal with quick overview. All right. So this is an overview of First Timothy chapter 4. It says First Timothy is a chapter in Paul's letter to Timothy, focused on warning against false teaching and instructions for godly living, especially for church leaders. Here's a breakdown of the chapter. First Timothy 4, verses 1 through 5, warning against false teacher. Paul, all right, begins with prophetic warning. All right, in the latter times, some will abandon the faith, deceitful spirits and doctrines, okay, of demons. These false teachers are described as hypocritical liars with serious conscience. They forbid, all right, marriage and require abstinence from certain food practices likely tied to, all right, asceticism, asceticism, all right, and possibly early Gnostic ideas. Okay, now when you go further into Gnosticism, all right. All right. Said Gnosticism was a complex and diverse set of beliefs. All right. But during the time of the New Testament, first and second centuries AD, several core ideas began to emerge. All right. That later became fully developed in what we call the Gnostic systems. Although full-fledged Gnosticism, all right, um, matured a bit after, all right, the apostolic era. Okay, so after the apostles, all right, so it was fairly new, and you can see why, certain believers, were leaving the faith and going to these different beliefs that was emerging. Ephesus was a major, epic center of debate, philosophy, all right, religion, different religions, okay, different gods, okay. It said many of his tenets were already present in early forms, and New Testament authors, especially Paul and John, were likely responding to these. Okay, so it says the term Gnostics, all right, gnosis, all right, means knowledge, all right, in the Greek. It says not just intellectual knowledge, but secret and spiritual insight believed to be, all right, the key to salvation. It says here are key beliefs associated with proto Gnosticism of early Gnostic ideas, all right, circulating during New Testament times, all right, dualism. Okay, you had the Gnostic belief the material world was inherently evil, with the spiritual realm was pure and good. The human soul, a divine spark, was seen as trapped in a corrupt physical body. This led to asceticism, all right, denying the body, all right, example, marriage, fasting, avoiding meat or pleasure. Okay, so this is what the Apostle Paul was addressing, all right, in First Timothy 4 and 3. Okay, Gnosticism, okay, which you had asceticism, all right, the denying of body, all right, example, no marriage, fasting, avoiding meat and pleasure. Okay, and then you had another sect, libertinism, okay, reasoning that body action didn't matter, pretty much do as thou wilt. So you had one, all right, that was extremely rigid, that pushed no marriage, no fasting, avoiding the meat and pleasure. Okay, then you had the libertinism that will pretty much do as thou wilt. All right, actions in the human body don't matter. So you had these different doctrines and beliefs that was emerging, okay, and they were drawing some from the faith, some that had converted and began to follow, okay, Yahushua through the teachings, okay, on the gospel, all right. They began to follow, all right, these certain trends that will come about, okay, in these different Greek city states, man. You see, so when you read First Timothy 4 and 3, it says forbidden to marry. He's directly addressing, all right, the Gnosticism, okay, that was going on back then. Okay, and commanded to abstain from meats which the Most High have created to be received, and with thanksgiving of them which believe all right, and know the truth, and the Christian will take that and say, well, they can eat anything, and that's not what that's going into. Okay, and speaking of meats that are lawful to eat, because Gnosticism was pushing the rejecting all meat together. Okay, marriage, you see, pretty much like a monk. You see, so they was pushing that, all right, which was off. Okay, and it says, which the Most High have created, right, the lawful meats He created to eat, to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. For every creature of the Most High is good, nothing to be refused, which is talking about lawful foods. Okay, but for Christians, this is a stumbling block for them to eat, all right, whatever they want. But that's not what it's going into, speaking about lawful foods. Okay, if it be received with thanksgiving, for it is sanctified by the word of the Most High. Okay, in prayer, you pray over the food. All right, another thing they were dealing with were foods that was offered, unto idols. Was the Apostle Paul addressed, okay, in the book of Corinthians. Because dealing with these different meat markets. Okay, they will make those offerings. Okay, in the temple of idols, and they will sell the leftover meat in the markets. Okay, and some believers, being privy, to those sacrifices and rituals in the temple, it was on their conscience when it came to eating those meat. And Apostle Paul had to write the letter in the book of Corinthians, the 8th chapter, to let them know, if you feel, guilty, don't eat it. Okay, but if you don't feel no guilt, you're not doing nothing wrong with eating that meat. You pray over it, and eat the meat. Just like today, some brothers, they go kick it with their family on Thanksgiving. Okay, on Christmas, go get a plate and kick it. You see, some brothers, they stay away from it. Okay, we understand that these times is these holidays are pagan. Okay, well, some brothers conscious and unbothered because they not going there to celebrate Christmas. They're not going there to celebrate Thanksgiving and the traditions attached to it. He's just going to get something to eat, see his people. Okay, you're gonna pray over it in the name and you be cool. Some brothers they don't deal with it. It's on their conscience. Okay, and so either way, you're not off. All right, but if you are, condemned in the country, then just fall back. But don't look at the brother that's going as if he's going off. Okay, that's different strokes for different folks, man. Okay, but at the end of the day, as long as you're not participating and into the actual holiday or eating unlawful foods. Okay, and it says a good minister's discipline. It says, if thou put brethren in remembrance of these things, thou shalt be a good minister of Yahweh Shah Mashiach, nourished up in the words of faith and good doctrine, whereunto, all right, thou hast obtained. But refuse profane and old wives' tales, all right, old wives' fables, and exercise thyself rather unto godliness, man, because Ephesus was a heavy, epic center of debate and mysticism. Okay, so Apostle Paul was like, look, avoid that. Anything that's profane, that's outside of the ministry. Okay, that's outside of the true doctrine. Okay, refuse it. Okay, and put emphasis on godliness, man. Okay, the believers being built up by this word, being instructed in righteousness according to this word. Okay, it says, for bodily exercise profiteth little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that is now, and that now it said, and of that which is to come. Okay, so bodily exercise, it does have a profit. Okay, but it profits little compared to the profit of being in good standings with Yahweh Bashem Al Shah, practicing righteousness, because, just as you have to, if you want a certain physique, you have to really get into it. Okay. Well, Apostle Paul said it's cool, all right, but it's more profitable to have, all right, a spiritual physique. You see, to rehearse spiritual conduct and behavior, okay, and be built up in it. You see, it's cool to exercise, but don't be unbalanced, because remember, this is Ephesus is a Greco-Roman culture, all right, and then they was big, in the sports, in the gymnos, all right. Let's see, we can look it up. Ephesus. Let's see. So let's see. Mm-mm. All right, so let's just go here real quick, and brothers, brothers have tapped into, their health, from, the way that they eat, their diet, to exercising, understanding their body, walking, because there's nothing wrong, with being fit. Okay. It was a thing of not, you know, being unbalanced to where you're putting all this emphasis on being fit and neglecting being built up, okay, in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai, because that has to be rehearsed too, because we grew up in a society, okay, that was completely anti-Messiah, so just as we train, all right, hold on, man, so just as we train just as we would train, okay, in the gym, okay, we will also, all right, have to train in the spirit and righteousness, man. Certain character flaws we have to, you know, address. Okay, certain things have to be exercised because being we're rehearsing the righteous act. So certain things, have to be exercised. All right, so let's look it up again. Threw me out with sports and gym culture. Be all right, so you go here just to get a little backdrop on it. It says, yes, sports and gym culture was significant in ancient Ephesus as they were in many major cities of the Greco-Roman world. All right, gymnasium in Ephesus. Ephesus had large, well-developed gymnasiums, which were essential public institution in Greek and Roman cities. These weren't just for exercise; they were cultural centers that combined, all right, physical training, wrestling, running, boxing, okay, education, socialism. All right, there were at least three major gymnasiums in Ephesus: Harbor Gymnasium near the port, likely used by athletes and travelers; Vedius Gymnasium, built by a wealthy citizen named Vedius Antonius, one of the best preserved. All right, and it says near the stadium and connected to competitive. It's a stadium gymnasium near the stadium and connected to competitive sports. Okay. It says stadium and athletic events. Ephesus had a large stadium used for athletic competition, foot races, public events, and festivals. These events were influenced by Greek tradition like the Olympic Games and later Roman spectacles. The Ephesians celebrated games as part of religious festivals, especially, all right, those honoring Artemis, all right, the queen of heaven, the cities. All right, patron. Okay, goddess, which this heathen is so weird. All right, because a patron goes to a patriarch when dealing with the man. All right, so you have a woman as the patron goddess, goddess. All right, but just show you that the gym culture was heavy in Ephesus. You know, there's nothing wrong, okay, with exercise. All right, but you can't just the balance of not being engulfed, okay, and just bodily exercise and not exercising the spirit. You know, so let's go back. All right, First Timothy 4:8. It says, for bodily exercise profit little, but godliness is profitable to all things, having promise of the life that now is and that which is to come. This is a faithful saying, worthy of all yeah, acceptation. Okay, it says, for therefore we both labor and suffer reproach because we trust in the living power, who is the Savior of all men, especially, all right, of those that believe. These things command and teach. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example, all right, of the believers in word and conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. Okay, because Apostle, Timothy, he was young. He wasn't super young, early 30s, mid 30s and 40s, during the time of these letters. All right, but you have men, in their 60s, they were coming into the church, you know, many, those that wanted to debate, older men. Okay. So Apostle Paul was like, nah, stand on truth. Don't let them try to you know, leverage your youth against you as if you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Just like a lot of brothers came into this thing young and still are young. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we, all right, don't know what we're talking about, man. It's all through the spirit. And Yahweh Shema Shah. Okay. Because even uh I think that's in the book. See if I can find it real quick. I think that's in the book of is it Wisdom of Solomon or Sirach? Let me pull it in a while. See if I can find it. Precept that expound on it. Okay. Real quick. Say wisdom. Wisdom of Solomon. All right. Chapter 4. Let me see. Pull it up. All right, so when you go to Wisdom of Solomon, all right, just put a precept with that. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, and verse 9. Well, I started at 8, so let me share it real quick. All right, so when you go here to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, and start at verse 8. Okay, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 8. It says, for honorable age is not that which standeth in length of time. Okay, so just because a man has been around a long time, all right, it doesn't mean that his age gives him honor, because you could be an old fool. Okay, it said, nor that is measured by number of years, but wisdom is the gray hair unto a man, and the unspotted life is old age. Okay, so having understanding of the scriptures, okay, and years and experience of righteous living, that's true experience. That's why there's brothers, they might be of younger age in the camp, but they've been in the truth, for a longer time. All right. And they have more experience than someone that's physically older and righteous living and living in his wisdom. Okay. So wisdom is the gray hair unto a man. All right. So you can just, see, getting old, okay, is not the you see objective. The objective is to gain wisdom as we grow old, okay, and understand and practice righteous living. Okay, that's the objective. That's the true experience. Okay, so going back here is why Apostle Paul, when you go to the book of 1 Timothy 4:12, said, "Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example." And that's the thing too. We have to be those examples, man. Okay, as we been allotted, tasked to teach His word, the Lord has put on us great responsibility of living. All right, these things that we teach. Okay, being a living example of these things in word and conversation and charity and spirit and faith and purity, till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Okay, give attendance to reading. That's why there's a heavy spirit and the Lord is dealing with, and we are actively reading, you know. It puts a hedge on us, it puts a certain spirit on us, man, to give attendance to reading. To tapping into this book. This is our book. Who should know it better than us, man? Okay, and every time you read, you have a chance to get a faith booster, practical wisdom you can use. Okay, more understanding on what we already believe, man. So the reading is extremely beneficial. Okay, it says to exhortation, to doctrine, neglect not the gift that is in thee, all right, which was given thee by prophecy, which the laying on of the hands of the, I said, with the laying on of the hands of the presbytery, okay, which is speaking to the elders, okay, and the apostles and elders didn't have to physically lay hands on everybody. Well, you have these electronic epistles, okay, these certain brothers from different counts, elders, and different counts as they teach, where they can lay hands via the internet, okay. So you have, prophets waking up, okay, other prophets, man. You see, and it awakens a gift that is within us, all right, which is the gift, of prophecy, to teach, whatever gift, the Lord, gives, okay. But it's activated through what? The hearing of His word through the spirit and power, Yahweh Shema Shah. It says, meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. Man, giving thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. So we should give ourselves wholly unto these things, man. Okay, this is the thing that we're supposed to be obsessed with. Everything else we do, and it's limited. But this is what we lean into. Okay, everything else is just to get by, but this is what we lean into, man. And it profits not only us, but everyone. Okay, that's of the faith. You see, because it's bigger than us. It says, take heed to thyself. All right, constantly self-examination. Constantly coming up with assessments of ourselves. Okay, it said, take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this, thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee. Okay, those that believe, as Yahweh shall pray for not only the disciples or teacher, but the believers. So that was the point. All right, Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Makakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutation, and hopefully, shalom.